How's it going out there, everybody? All you fellow wrestling fans, and anyone who isn't a wrestling fan who just happens to be listening. It's JP here, and this is my first podcast ever. Initially, I was gonna do a podcast of my. I wanted to do a weekend review in movies on my new YouTube channel, but I'm also a fan of wrestling, so I thought it'd be cool to do a review of every time a PLE actually happens. And of course, this is the weekend of Elimination Chamber 2025. So I thought it'd be fun to do not only a prediction, not only a reaction to the actual show, but I thought it'd be fun to do a little prediction or what I think might actually happen, record that before the actual show, and then my reaction to the show itself. Unfortunately, I did try filming this yesterday, and it didn't really go as well as I would have liked. So I'm trying to redo that filming, or excuse me, recording. Pardon me. I'm new to this. I'll get better, I promise. And then try to keep it tight, and then I will just go ahead and do my review of the actual show itself. So, of course, we have 4 matches going into this, 2 Elimination Chamber matches, 1 unsanctioned match, and then a tag team match. And of course, what will Cody decide? What will he do with Rock's offer to offer up his soul and to be the Rock's champion leading into WrestleMania? Wonder how that's gonna go, huh? Well, first off, I'll talk a little bit about the tag team match. Tiffany Stratton and Trish Stratus, which I find funny that both of them have the same initials. And those two versus Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. This was initially started being set up a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown. Trish was not at ringside, but she was in the crowd, and then there was an altercation, and that's what's led to this particular match. So on the surface, I feel like this is more of just a random crowd pleaser, taking advantage of the fact that they are going to be in Trish's hometown. So it gives Trish an opportunity to jump in the ring and in front of her, fellow Canadians, and to try to give them a little extra something for their buck for the live crowd and for anyone else out there who is a Trish fan. That sounds like a pretty cool deal in my opinion. So I feel like this match, I don't know if it'll be anything special. I'm not really looking forward to this match per se, but I will watch it and I will be objective and I will talk about anything that stands out about the match when it happens, of course. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the unsanctioned match between Sami Zayn and KO. Now, what's interesting for me is that as a wrestling fan, I've been a wrestling fan on and off my whole life when I was a kid growing up. Didn't watch it on a weekly basis, but did become a I don't want to say mega, but just a huge wrestling fan and started watching it on a weekly basis during the summer of 1996, right before the NWO was formed. So, 2 different unsanctioned matches that have happened in WWE that stand out. Now, there's been well over 10 unsanctioned matches over the course of time. But these 2, for me, always stand out because they happened when I was a big fan. Back then, because there have been moments along the way where I have fallen out as being a fan. I've walked away from the company multiple times over the years. But again, that's a discussion for another time. But anyway, the 2 unsanctioned matches that I'm thinking of that I remember the most actually kind of go hand in hand. The first one I remember is from 1998, No Way Out in Texas, which happened right before WrestleMania 14. The match was supposed to be, Triple H and Shawn Michaels of DX joining the New Age Outlaws, who had not been part of the DX clique as of yet. They hadn't officially formed yet, versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, Owen Hart, Cactus Jack, and Chainsaw Charlie. Unfortunately, Shawn Michaels was having some extreme back troubles, so he wasn't able to actually be in that match, and in his place was Savio Vega. That was a last-minute replacement, and unfortunately for Shawn, that back problem would ultimately result in him backing away from wrestling for about 4.5 years. After he lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania, he had to retire for a time. And we thought, at the time, being a fan back then, we literally thought he was never going to come back. Because typically when a wrestler leaves because of a career-threatening injury, they typically don't come back. This is before, he ever came back or Edge ever came back. So, or even Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, if you prefer. So, But yeah, this match wasn't too bad. I always thought it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of funny hits that happened throughout the match. And one other thing about that match, or I should say post match, that stood out for me was Stone Cold was confronted by China and actually she flipped him off, and she was provoking him, and he was like, you know what, I'm not going to get involved with this. I'm not going to get involved with a woman in any way. Forget it. But then she made the mistake of flipping him off, pissed him off, and then he got back in the ring and gave her a stunner right in the middle of the ring. So yeah, poor China. But you know what? You don't do that to the Texas Rattlesnake. You just don't. So now, when I talked about these two matches being hand in hand, because Shawn Michaels actually had to retire a month later at WrestleMania, he did not return to active duty until SummerSlam of 2002, which coincidentally, his first match after all that time was an unsanctioned match against his friend, his brother from D-Generation X, Triple H. So, I mean, there was a situation where it looked like Shawn might be coming back, and he pissed off Triple H something fierce. Triple H turned on him like Triple H always fucking does. I mean, come on. Is there anybody he's ever teamed with that he didn't turn his back on at some point or another? Seriously. I don't remember a single time. But anyway, that led to the unsanctioned match between those two that year at 2002 SummerSlam, which Shawn Michaels actually won. But then there was an incident after the match where Triple H clocked him with a freaking sledgehammer. But Shawn returned to full active duty very soon after that and would actually capture the World Heavyweight Championship that same year at Survivor Series. So pretty good night. Which coincidentally, I didn't plan this. Coincidentally, that year was the inaugural Elimination Chamber. How do you like that? Tying all that shit together. So now this match tonight between Sami Zayn and KO, all I can think of is Mr. T from Rocky 3 when they ask, "What's your prediction?" My prediction: pain. That's what I'm predicting. I'm expecting this is going to be a very rough match. Like, I expect a potential bloodbath. It is not going to go well. As far as who I think is going to win, I really don't know. I don't know. It could go either way at this point. You know, it could be one person gets beat so bad that they just don't come back for a few more weeks, or I had a thought that maybe these two wouldn't be able to be completely contained in this match, and then it would actually get thrown out, and then would culminate on in another match at WrestleMania 41. And that means they would have to put them in a situation where they couldn't get away from each other, a la possible Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania or something like that. So I really don't know. This is an unpredictable. This could go one way or the other, or another way. Who the hell knows? So I really don't know what to say about this one any more than what I have. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I predict that the females Elimination Chamber match will more than likely start to show, because I feel like with all the stuff that's going on with the men's match, I feel like they'll save that for last. But for the females match, you've got Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Bayley, Alexa Bliss, and Roxanne Perez. Okay, so as far as this match is concerned, I'm going to be upfront and honest. I am not the biggest fan of both Bianca Belair and Naomi. The only reason for it is because I just don't care for their personalities. I mean, Naomi is okay in the ring. I can't say that she's terrible or anything like that. Just not the biggest fan of her. And with Bianca, I'll be the first one to say that she is a great freaking athlete. She's very strong. She's very fit. She's very good in the ring. I can't deny that. It's just her personality I just don't care for. So I don't want either one of these two to win. That's all. That's what I got to say about that. Now, as far as everybody else, I mean, there's different reasons why I feel like they could win. I mean, with Bayley, I don't know. She's already been to WrestleMania. She's been in the main event. So I feel like her winning doesn't really make a whole lot of sense right now, unless there's like a bigger picture that I'm just not seeing, which, you know, happens a lot. Roxanne Perez is, in my opinion, the wild card in this, since she is still with NXT. She hasn't officially, to my recollection, because I watch every weekly show, Raw and SmackDown. I don't recall a situation where she's gotten an official elevation to the top shows. So As far as I know, she's still NXT. So it's interesting that they put her in this match. And she had a killing show at the Rumble last month, surviving for well over an hour. I don't know. I feel like she could win this match if they wanted to do something a little bit more unpredictable and something that goes against the norm, because it seems like most Rumbles typically end with who we think is going to win. And, this last Rumble kind of dabbled in both. But anyway, getting back on track, because I get off topic a lot, so I apologize. Win. For Alexa Bliss, again, she just came back, so I don't know if they're going to give her the win so quickly. But then again, you could argue that Flair debuted at the Rumble along with Alexa Bliss and is already going to WrestleMania, so who the hell knows? It's not off the table at this point. Liv Morgan. For me, I feel like this one makes the most sense in terms of history because whoever wins this match is going to face either Io Sky or Rhea Ripley after their match happens on, I want to say it's on Raw this coming Monday, which I'll be honest, I don't see Rhea Ripley losing because she just won the damn title very recently. So I don't see her dropping it yet. So I think and whoever wins this match is going to face Rhea Ripley. And if Liv Morgan wins, that makes the most sense because they've got all this damn history, especially within the last year since last year's WrestleMania up until now. That could go either way. One other thing to address with both Naomi and Bianca Belair, since I don't want either one of these two to win, they recently just won the lost the tag team titles to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And they've also been addressing this whole Jade Cargill situation that's been going on that took place a handful of months ago. And they didn't really talk about it, but here in recent weeks, they're finally talking about it again and addressing the who did it, who done it type thing. So, there's been some video footage that is kind of pointing the fingers at Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, but I'm not buying it. I don't think most fans are anyway. So, me and my brother have our own theories on who we think it is. Me personally, I think it's Naomi. I really do, because I feel like she is the only person who truly gained after Jade Cargill was gone. She stepped right up and took took Jade's place as the half of the tag team champions, and then her and Bianca ran with it for a period of time. So that's my prediction on that scenario. But my brother seems to think that it might have been, I know this sounds funny, but he thinks that it was Bianca Belair. I don't really think that's the case, only on the grounds that, that would be kind of a left field scenario. The only way I could see that happening is in a possibility of she would have done that because maybe she just wanted to get rid of Jade, but I just don't see that as a possibility. That's just me. Will that culminate tonight? I don't know. I feel like that's something that needs to be figured out. We're, after this PLE, we're only, 6 weeks away from WrestleMania. So if they're going to incorporate that into some kind of a match at Mania, it needs to happen pretty damn quick. If not tonight, then very soon. So we'll see how that goes. Then you've got the men's Elimination Chamber. I got a couple of things about this I want to talk about, but I'm going to try to be brief. So hopefully for all 5 of you out there who actually listen to this, hopefully you're still awake. Now, you've got John Cena, CM Punk, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Damian Priest. Right off the bat, Logan Paul's not winning. It's not happening. He's not over with the crowd. He has just started his full-time schedule. He's not going to win, period. That's not happening. Now, as far as Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Damian Priest, I can't help but feel that these 3 guys are in there just to make the match more interesting. I don't see any of these 3 guys winning, mostly because all 3 of them were a big deal in the main event of Mania last year. You had Drew McIntyre, who actually finally won the dance in front of a huge crowd. Of course, he got in CM Punk's face. Damian Priest cashed in. I can't even fucking talk, sorry, and ended up becoming the champion for a few months after that. And of course, Seth Rollins actually lost the title to Drew McIntyre. So I don't see these 3 guys winning because I don't see that working out. I see all 3 of those guys doing something else non-title related at WrestleMania. But that's, again, my theory. So, which leads me to the other two guys in the match. You've got CM Punk, which I'm just going to throw it out there. CM Punk is my odds on favorite to win because he's never been in the main event of WrestleMania, and I think he deserves it. It's one of those things where he was in the company for a real long time. He had a great title run there for a while, but he never ever actually made it to the main event of WrestleMania, unfortunately. Of course, I'll talk in more detail down the road about the fact that he probably got sidestepped because they were promoting freaking Rock versus Cena 2 years in a row at Mania. So whatever, that's a whole different thing. And as far as John Cena, okay, I'm going to be very clear about this, and let me emphasize something as well. Whenever I talk any derogatory statements about a wrestler, I'm not talking about the person in real life versus the character they play on TV. I want to emphasize that before anyone loses their shit over anything I have to say about John Cena. Anybody out there who knows me, has been around me for the last 15 years, knows I am not a John Cena fan. I was for a while. Back in the Master of Thugonomics era, I was a fan, but when he started doing the Marine thing, I got bored with it. I wasn't on board with it. I felt like he was mostly just catering to the kids. Nothing wrong with that, but for somebody like me who's in his 30s, that doesn't really do anything for me. And quite frankly, well, again, that's a discussion for another time on everything all the complaints I have about Cena. But him in this match, there's so many things about this that just bother me. Okay, the fact that he lost the Royal Rumble and they did the what's the word I'm looking for? They did the press conference after the show, and he straight up announced that he's going to be in the Elimination Chamber. Didn't have to wrestle any match to qualify for it. He just got himself a slot. I don't agree with it. I think it's crap. Everybody else had to earn their spot, but Mr. John Cena, because he's been around the company for as long as he has, can just punch his ticket any which way he wants. And because it's his farewell tour, which I could get two shits about, but that's me. So I'm not happy with that, and I wonder if there's something going on with this, but I don't know. I don't agree with it. And also, what the hell is with the idea that Cena has not been on television one time in the past few weeks building up to this Elimination Chamber match? What the hell? I mean, I thought he was doing a farewell tour, but he has done absolutely nothing to build up this match. Now, I'll look into it later on. If there's a situation that he's busy doing something and can't do it, okay, fine, it is what it is, but then it makes me wonder, well, if you're busy doing other shit, then why do this farewell tour? You know, why emphasize it's your final year if you're not going to be working a full schedule? I feel like when Logan Paul is working more of a schedule than you are, the legend that you're supposed to be, there's something wrong with that. I don't. He is the person that everyone seems to think is going to win. I don't agree with the idea of him winning, only because he hasn't wrestled a full schedule in a long, long time. And anyone who knows me knows I don't like part timers. I don't like part timers winning championships. It aggravates the crap out of me. If you're not wrestling a full schedule, you're not working your butt off like all the other guys and gals that are working a full schedule, busting their asses day in and day out, they're the ones that deserve title shots. You don't. So, but I don't care how many championships you've won, how long you've been with the company, it shouldn't be that way. CM Punk, in my opinion, and maybe I'm biased. Maybe I am. Probably a little bit, but I'm trying not to be. Maybe CM Punk, in my opinion, I feel like he deserves it more than anybody else at this point because he's never been to the big dance out of all these guys. Not counting Logan Paul because he's just getting started on his full-time career. So I really don't think there's anything else I can say. I've covered all the matches. I already talked about what is Cody going to decide. I really don't know. I had a theory that because I don't see Cody accepting the offer, but stranger things have happened. Maybe Cody accepts the offer and becomes a heel champion leading into WrestleMania. And in that scenario, I feel like it would make sense if CM Punk actually won because CM Punk is very well over with the crowd. And if Cody were to turn heel, it would piss off the fans something fierce. So right off the bat, instead of it being two baby faces facing at Mania, you've got a heel versus a baby face, and it makes more sense. And on top of that, in that scenario, if you have The Rock in Cody's corner, this would be a perfect opportunity for CM Punk to cash in on the favor that he earned back at Survivor Series last year over Roman Reigns by joining their team. He could cash in a favor to Roman Reigns and have Roman be in his corner. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think that would be interesting. You've got The Rock in one corner and Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, in the other corner. That sounds interesting to me, but I feel like that's more of a pipe dream. I don't know. So I guess we'll just wait and see. I don't think there's anything else I can say for predictions. I'll take a pause and then I will come back later on and do my review of the actual show. So thank you for listening, and I will be back soon. It's actually been a good amount of time since I was using a computer on a regular basis. The last so many years, I only use it from time to time, every so often, no big deal. So to say that I'm a little out of practice, I feel kind of goes without saying by saying all that. But there are some things in this world that you should never get out of practice of doing. Say, for instance, updating your computer from time to time, making sure that, all your equipment is working properly, or I don't know, saving your stuff from time to time as you're working on it to ensure that if anything goes wrong, you don't lose everything that you've done. You don't lose hours and hours and hours of time creating, so to speak. So, this is my second time trying to film my overall reaction of what happened at Elimination Chamber. Unfortunately, because I am out of practice and I did not take the time to save anything, my fault, shame on me, all of my work is gone. I am having to do this all over again from the ground up after I was damn near done. I had talked about all the matches. I was going to get into the last little bit that happened at the end of the show. Had to go pick up my son from school, come back. Apparently my computer was updating and everything I did went right down the fucking tubes. So, lesson learned, JP. Make sure you save your shit on a regular as you're working on it. So, live and freaking learn, I guess. All right, so Elimination Chamber, between some of the events of the show and then some of the events that took place after the final match, I've been trying to find the right words for how I feel about the way things transpired.
What the hell was that?
No, I don't think that quite cuts it.
What the hell was that?
Nope, that still doesn't quite cut it.
What the fuck is that?
Okay, all right, that will work. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about, and like I said, this is my second damn time doing this. And there's other things I'd love to move on to, but we got to get this knocked out first. So, okay, so Elimination Chamber. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so we start the show with a series of scenes of the different superstars coming into the arena, and it is really funny to note that KO on his way in finds a toolbox, makes it a point to grab a couple of wrenches, tests their durability, and then puts the wrenches in his bag. Now, this would be even funnier if he actually used them during his match later with Sami Zayn, but unfortunately he doesn't. But I still think it's funny. But, I will also at least mention, I won't get too much into detail, but during the last bits of the pre-show, there was a singing of the American national anthem before the Canadian national anthem, and apparently the Canadians felt that they wanted to boo during our national anthem. Now, I don't really have anything to say on that. Bottom line, they have the right to boo us, just like they have the right to cheer us. Same thing when they come over here. I say take it for what it is. I'm not going to comment too much. And Pat McAfee made it a point to mention it during the opening broadcast before the first match actually happens. So I'll let that go for what it is. Now, the first match on the card is the Women's Elimination Chamber. I was actually correct about that. I was thinking it was going to be first. So I'm going to name all the people, all the women that are in the match in the order that they come into the ring. First is Alexa Bliss, who actually won the first Women's Elimination Chamber back in 2018. Next up, we've got Roxanne Perez, or Pettis, if you prefer. Interesting note about her: not only that she's from Laredo, which that's pretty cool. Me being Texas born, it's always nice to see more Texans making it in the company. But the fact that they said that she would take a bus on weekends after she was done with her school, and then actually go from Laredo to Houston in order to be trained by Booker T. And she would do this all weekend long, and then she would take a bus back home to go to school for the next week. I gotta say, I have mad respect for that, for somebody who took all of her free time when she was in school, because she was 16 when this happened, taking all of her free time on the weekend instead of going out, hanging with friends, partying, having a good time, goofing off, whatever. Nothing wrong with any of that. But taking her free time to actually go and try to learn this craft that she clearly has a big passion for, because you don't do that for just anything. I don't know. I like I said, I got mad respect for that. Next up, we've got Bailey. So it was mentioned that she had won a tag team title match in the Elimination Chamber with Sasha Banks back in 2019. I might actually look into that, because I'll be honest, I don't really remember that too much. Next up, we've got Bianca, who did win the Elimination Chamber back in 2022. Next up, Liv Morgan, who has a pretty interesting record compared to all the other women. She's competed in all of the Royal Rumbles up until now, and she's got the most Elimination Chamber appearances. Not to mention that she actually won the Crown Jewel Championship so many months ago. She's the first one to do it. So yeah, it sounds to me like Liv Morgan really gets around.
Giggity.
Last but not least, we have Naomi coming into the chamber. Now, it'll be Liv Morgan and Naomi starting, and by this point, the bell rings. Mind you, the chamber door has not been closed as of yet. Not even 10 seconds in. Jade Cargill's music hits. As soon as it hits, Liv Morgan automatically starts freaking out. But I tell you, I couldn't help but notice that Naomi gives a side look at Bianca behind her in her pod, who at this point, Bianca hasn't taken off her garbs, or the stuff she wears over her ring attire, I should say. By this point, she takes it off, and Jade makes her way to the ring, and she is walking with a purpose. She knows exactly what she's doing. She hits the ring, and she makes it look like she's going for Liv, but then immediately goes over and clocks Naomi, beating the hell out of her. She starts beating on her in the ring, and then she actually knocks her to the outside, starts beating her up out there as well, even knocking her into the glass of Alexa Bliss's pod. Security comes in, they try to stop Jade from what she's doing, but she pushes them off and gives what looks like a bro kick to Naomi, knocking her into Alexa's pod glass. And then security is still trying to break up what's going on with Jade. Mind you, the whole time that this is going on, Bianca is losing her shit in her pod. She's already locked in. She can't do anything. She has a look on her face like she's distraught. She's freaking out. She's hitting the glass. She's trying to get out, but she's stuck in there. Can't do anything. Naomi actually starts to slowly crawl her way to the entrance of the chamber, and Jade makes it a point to grab the door and slam it into her head. And by this point, it's announced that Naomi cannot continue and has been officially eliminated. So Naomi is officially done. Jade leaves the ring, and that's it. Doesn't even make a second glance or anything. She's gone. So I didn't know if they were going to do it tonight, but they sure as hell did. And I'm kind of glad they did, because it raises questions. I don't know. I was 100% sure that it was Naomi who did it, which I still am. At this point, based on both Naomi and Bianca's reaction to Jade coming out, I'm having second thoughts at this point. I'm not sure if I feel the same way I did before. I don't know. Based on the reactions, I still think I might be correct, but then I'm starting to think my brother's theory might actually come to fruition. So, time will tell. We will have to wait and see for the next time we see Jade show up on TV and hopefully get some damn answers on what the hell happened. So, and at this point, Liv Morgan is over on the pod glass with Bianca, taunting her the whole time, like, I told you it wasn't me. And Bianca's just like, shut up, shut up. But because Naomi can't start the match, they go ahead and jumpstart the first person coming out of the pod. And who's the first person to come out but Bianca herself? How funny. And right away, Liv takes advantage, doesn't pull any punches with Bianca. Bianca, it's very evident that her head is not into it at all because she keeps looking back down the ramp. Naomi is being hauled away in a stretcher at this point, and it's clear that her mind is not in the game just yet. She, her mind's going a mile a minute. But between Liv and Bianca, they fight each other. They kind of bounce between the outer area back into the ring. They're all over the place. Next in the ring is Roxanne, who does take a little bit of control for a bit. At one point she does a side Russian leg sweep to Bianca against the chain of the chamber, which for anyone in Russia, a side Russian leg sweep is actually just a side leg sweep. A little food for thought. And then Liv will take control of Roxanne with a missile drop kick. And then next up, we've got Bayley coming into the ring, and she makes it a point to slam Roxanne into her own chamber glass and starts beating her down inside the actual not the inside the pod itself. And then makes it a point to take out Liv as well. Bayley and Bianca do kind of fight it out for a bit as time goes on. Bayley actually has she takes Bianca and throws her through the middle ropes, and she lands on the outside. And then Bayley, we notice that she's holding Bianca's hair, and as she's doing so, she kind of stops, looks down, and just kind of slowly lets it go, like, oops, my bad, not gonna do that. And after about a minute, all the women are just mixing it up. It's going back and forth, so it's nonstop action at this point. There's no boring sequences going on whatsoever. And then finally, Alexa comes into the ring, and I just love how she has this calm, collecting, yet sinister, and I'm just going to throw it out there, hot look on her face. Like, seriously. I love what they're doing with her right now. She's very calm and collected. It's very awesome. She comes in the ring, and she does take out both Roxanne and Liv. Her and Bayley actually kind of get into it for a bit. Roxanne puts Bayley in a crossface at some point. First inside the ring and then outside the ring. So she's determined. Action does continue back into the ring after a bit. Liv actually hits Bayley with Oblivion. 1, 2, 3. Bayley is officially out. Liv and Bianca at some point actually fight on top of Bianca's pod. And Liv makes the mistake of grabbing Bianca's hair and just won't let go. Bianca retaliates by eventually pulling her hair off and then whips the shit out of Liv right around the torso area. Now, I know that they usually use sound effects in some fashion or another, but I'm telling you, that whip was ugly. And as the match goes on, you can see the mark on Liv's torso. It doesn't look good at all. And then after she hits her with her hair, Bianca actually does a crossbody as the match goes on. She does a crossbody to Liv and Roxanne. Bianca is trying to get a pin. It doesn't work. And actually, at one point, she's got Alexa in position for a superplex. But before she can do it, both Roxanne and Liv get involved and actually powerbomb Bianca while Bianca is still holding Alexa. So it becomes a double powerbomb / superplex. All 4 women go down at the same time. I think that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, hit of the entire match. At one point, Roxanne actually stops Oblivion with a sidekick, tries to take out Bianca. Unfortunately for her, she gets a code breaker from Liv, and then Alexa gets Twisted Bliss on Roxanne. 1, 2, 3. Roxanne is officially out. So at this point, it's essentially a triple threat match. There's a lot of back and forthing going on with the women. Liv does the 3 amigos on Bianca. There's a lot of attempts on finishers going on. Alexa hits Bianca with Sister Abigail. But then after she does that, Liv comes in and rolls up Alexa and gets a 1, 2, 3. Now, it's interesting to note that as Liv has Alexa rolled over for the count, she manages to get a hold of Bianca's hair, who's right next to him because she just got the Sister Abigail. and she's holding onto her hair for leverage. So yeah, Alexa's officially out. We're down just to Liv and Bianca. By this point, my original prediction that Liv could win was starting to come to, I was starting to think that's how it was going to go. But the match continues on. At one point, Bianca's on the outside, and Liv actually uses Bianca's hair to bounce her back and forth between the ropes and the chain. Like she throws her into the chain and then tugs on her hair, pulls her back to the ropes. It's like, chain, rope, chain, rope. She basically turns her into a human ping pong ball, which, it is funny, but I remember thinking at the time, can't you just stop yourself? Can't you just grab the chain or something? I mean, it's still funny for what it is. They mix it up a little bit further. Bianca gets Liv by slamming her into the pod glass and then slams her into the chain. So nobody is pulling any punches on using the chamber as a weapon in this match at all, which as it should be. At one point, Bianca tries to go for a 450 splash. Doesn't work. Liv gets her knees up. They both try their finishers. They don't work. But then finally, Bianca gets the KOD. 1, 2, and 3. Bianca wins. Okay, so as I said before, I wasn't looking forward to Bianca winning. I really wasn't. I'm still not really too happy about it. But I don't know. In the last couple of months, I'm starting to look at this as a whole. I'm starting to look at the bigger picture. I can't help but wonder that Triple H has a specific plan for whatever he's doing with this. Because this isn't figured out just yet. It's not just Bianca and Rhea at WrestleMania. Rhea and Io are still supposed to face off at Raw, which I haven't seen yet, so I don't know what the hell happened with that. So whoever wins that match is going to face off against Bianca. But you know what? I don't know. I feel like right now between Rhea, and Io, I don't know why, but I feel like this might turn into a potential triple threat match at WrestleMania. But I feel like I don't need to do any speculation right now. We've got what is it, 6 weeks before WrestleMania? There is still plenty of build-up time going on between now and then. So at this point, I take it for what it is. I'm not happy that Bianca won, but you know what? We'll see how things play out. So after that, they start highlighting celebrities that are in the crowd. We've got Canadian rapper and record producer Nav sitting in the crowd. I'll be honest, I've never heard of him before this. I'll look him up later on and maybe see if he's worth listening to. But next up, we've got Candice LeRae and Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton and Trish Stratus. You got Candice and Nia coming out in matching colored outfits. Now, for Trish coming out here at the age of 49, can I just say that she just looks phenomenal? Not only that, but this is her 25th anniversary. It's been 25 years since she debuted with the company, and it's like I can see the age in her face. I can see the difference, but that does not take away anything from her. She has definitely kept herself in shape. She looks so phenomenal right now. On top of that, a little factoid, apparently Trish's kids are actually at ringside watching the match, and this is the first time that they've had the opportunity to watch their mom wrestle live. So that's pretty cool for them. Bell rings, we've got Trish and Candice starting the match. Nia actually does try to get involved, but gets a double drop kick out of the ring for her trouble. Time goes on. Nia actually pulls Trish out from under the ropes and knocks her down pretty hard on the mat. Tiffy actually starts wailing on Nia for a few seconds until Candice jumps through the ropes with a missile drop kick, or at least it looked like a missile drop kick. Nails Tiffy and then actually picks her up and throws her into the steps. Candice and Nia start taking turns on Tiffy as the match goes on. Nia starts to take time to taunt Trish by sticking her finger up in the air, and she's got this really goofy look on her face. Yeah, that's a little bit of comedy on Nia's part. Later on, Nia actually has Trish in a sort of a bear hug and starts shaking the crap out of her. And, I found it to be really reminiscent of back in 97. I want to say this happened at WrestleMania 13. Don't quote me on that. Where Chyna had Marlena in the exact same type of hold and was shaking her up like a rag doll. That's what it reminded me of. Match goes on. Tiffy will actually get an Alabama slam on Candice. She reverses a hold and does that. It was pretty nice. And then she gives Nia a spine buster, which is a lot better than the one that she gave Nia a few weeks ago on SmackDown. I mean, that in that instance, Nia basically just kind of jumped through the air and just landed on her back on the mat, and Tiffy barely touched her. So yeah, they did a way better job this time. Down the road, Nia actually gets a nice leg drop on Tiffy, which I'm sure would make Hulk Hogan proud. Brother, brother, brother. This match goes on. I love, at one point, Nia actually kind of, not pulls, but kind of tugs on Candice's arm to get her over to their corner so she can get a tag. I would love to see more heels do this kind of thing where they like drag their partner to the corner to get a tag, because I don't know. I don't know. That just interests me. Soon after, Nia is actually on the top rope, and Trish will actually jump off, I think it was the middle rope, and kicks Nia more like kind of in between her face and her chest. And then Trish gives her super satisfaction. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's not the prettiest bulldog by any means, but it's definitely effective. As it goes on, Candice makes the mistake of moonsaulting Nia by accident, and this pretty much leads to the end of the match because Tiffy gets her, I think what do they call it? The greatest moonsault? I think that's what they call it, on Nia, and gets the 1-2-3. All in all, I mean, there was nothing overly flashy about this match. It didn't exist to really advance any major storylines, I don't think. Mostly, it just existed to kind of give Tiffy a little momentum going into WrestleMania and to let Trish kind of have a little bit of the spotlight in front of her hometown. So, I take it for what it is. Honestly, this match was roughly about 10 minutes. It did a good job of not overstaying its welcome, and you know what? It wasn't boring. There was never a moment during that match where I sat there thinking, can we get on with it? Can we get on with it? Can we get to the point? I just remember watching it and thinking, hey, that was pretty entertaining for what it was, you know? Not exactly the let's go to the bathroom and grab something to eat kind of match that I'm sure some others would probably say this match was good for. I enjoyed it. I really did. But I'm not going to pretend like this wasn't the least favorite match of the night. But when you're up against 2 Elimination Chamber matches and an unsanctioned match, that basically means that it's like a hardcore match, it's kind of hard to stack up against those. But again, doesn't overstay its welcome. It wasn't bad for what it was. Now, there's one more thing about this match that I need to address, that I want to address, rather, but that happened before it started officially. And this comment is more for one person, that being my brother, if he does listen to this. Did you catch the line that Wade Barrett said on commentary about this situation turning into a video nasty? Because, I'm sorry, as soon as I heard that, it made me think of this.
Oh, have we got a video?
Yes, we've got a video! Oh, have we got a video? Yes, we've got a video! Oh, have we got a video? If anyone else asks me that question, I'm gonna stick their head through the window.
Viv, have we got a video?
Right. Come this way, Neil. Sideways on. Thank you.
I still don't understand. Does that mean we got one or not?
Have we got a video?
Yes, we've got a video.
Only asked.
Now, for anyone who has no idea what that was, there was a show, a British TV show, that actually aired on the early days of MTV, way back in the day, back when MTV actually was mostly about music, not so much reality TV shows. And we actually watched that show religiously growing up. It's pretty funny. Anyone who's interested, those episodes, I actually do have it on DVD, but they are actually available, last time I checked, on YouTube. So if you're interested, give it a go. Moving along with the PLE, we are actually subjected to a video, or vignette, however you want to look at it, basically just showing and displaying how awesome The Rock is, all of his accomplishments, especially the most recent movie releases from Moana 2 to Red 1. And, you know, I just gotta be frank with this. This video to me just feels like a lot of butt kissing from the company to The Rock. And I'm gonna be straight up honest right now. I'm not a fan of The Rock. Haven't been a fan for a long time. Quite frankly, when it comes to The Rock,
I really hate that man.
yeah, so I mean, I've never really been a fan of The Rock. I mean, for a time, I couldn't really decide who I disliked more, whether it be Cena or The Rock. But I gotta be honest, at least with Cena in recent years, I've done more thinking about it, and I feel like I don't have as much distaste towards him now like I did years ago. And it's not as if there wasn't a time that I didn't cheer for Cena. Back during his thugonomics days, I was a fan. I thought his raps were pretty funny, and he had a certain charisma that definitely carried over the years. And for everything that I haven't liked about him over the course of time, I can't deny there being a level of respect that I do have for him. And I'm talking about the character versus the person at this point. I mean, with all the Make a Wish Foundation things that he has done over the years, big ups for him on doing all that. But as far as the character, I do have a pretty newfound level of respect in recent years, mostly from his never backing down attitude over the course of time, never turning down a challenge or anything, to quite frankly his freaking strength. Like I'll never forget at WrestleMania 25, which I was lucky enough to actually be at that show. Both me and my friends Joey and Aaron actually went to Houston that year to see that live. That was my second WrestleMania. During that show, during his match, he had a championship match against Big Show and Edge. And at one point, he had both the Big Show and Edge on his shoulders at the same damn time. And he actually held them there for several seconds. I gotta be honest, there is no damn way I cannot be impressed by that. It's just impossible. I'll even share a brief story about Cena. I've never actually met the man face to face, but years ago, both me and my brother were actually hired on to help set up the ring or set up the show before a live event here in Corpus at our ABC Center, which was a cool experience for what it was, getting to be around a lot of other wrestling fans, seeing how the ring gets set up and the stage as it was back then. It was a really cool experience. It's one of those things where I'm sitting there thinking, we're actually getting paid for this? Like, this is cool. I would have done this for free, but just for the experience of it was cool. Anyway, after we were done doing our job, they told us, okay, you're done for the day. If you want, you can go to this other area. We got food in there for the superstars. You can have at it. And let me just say, the food spread was actually pretty good. This was like really good food. And at one point, I remember I was walking away from where the food was, heading to the table where my brother was sitting. And I didn't even notice it right away, but I noticed that John Cena was passing right next to me. He was maybe a foot or two away from me. And when I finally realized that it was him, my thought in my head was, shit, man, he is fucking huge in real life. Holy shit. So, yeah, that was a fun little experience. And, with The Rock, I can honestly say I can't think of anything that he has ever done over the years that's ever truly impressed me. I mean, I barely cheered for him a couple of different times that I can remember. I do remember vaguely cheering for him like the weeks leading into the Survivor Series 1998 Deadly Games tournament because it looked like he was finally becoming a babyface, but then he turned out just to be a damn corporate stooge the whole entire time. And even with Vince recreating the Montreal screw job from the year before at Survivor Series. Real classy, Vince. Real classy.
You dick!
Anyway, moving along. We finally make it to the unsanctioned match. And, this match did not disappoint. I was expecting a potential bloodbath. And yeah, these guys did not hold back whatsoever. The bell rings, they stare each other down for a few seconds, then they start in with the fisticuffs, start just hitting each other like crazy. One thing I do have to ask, why are the lights dimmed during this match? I mean, seriously, like the main lights on the ring are the only ones on. Everything else is down compared to the rest of the show. Just had to address that. Anyway, so the match continues. KO actually drops Sammy gut first on the ropes and then hits him with a running senton. The action actually spills out of the ring for a few seconds. Sammy will actually throw KO back in and right off the bat starts introducing some chairs into the ring. That didn't take long. KO actually gets his hands on one of the chairs and hits Sammy about 3 different times. And then at one point, KO tries to hit Sammy, he ends up hitting the ropes, and the impact actually ricochets the chair off the rope and hits him right in the face. So this gives Sammy a chance to get some chair shots on KO himself. And at one point, he's on the outside and ends up pulling out a hockey stick from under the ring. We're in Canada, so why not? And it didn't take long. Sammy does end up pulling at a table later on and actually sets it up close to one of the corners of the ring. KO ends up getting control and actually chokes Sammy with the hockey stick while biting his forehead. I don't know. I guess KO forgot to eat before the match or something. I don't know. After this, KO ends up setting up another table on top of the original one that Sammy had set up before. The fighting continues. They end up spilling out over the guardrail and they start fighting down the aisle around the crowd. They actually make their way to the steps. And at one point, Sammy grabs a trash can and actually hits KO with it. And you hear Pat say, "He just hit him with Dominic Mysterio." Little pause. Michael Cole says, "That was a trash can, ladies and gentlemen." And then Barrett's like, "Unnecessary, but quite funny." And I'm paraphrasing on that. As they make their way back down to the bottom of the stairs, Sammy actually puts KO through not one, but 2 different tables that were already pre-set up outside in the crowd area. And eventually they start making their way back to ringside. Once they do, KO actually grabs the ring bell and hits Sammy over the head with it a couple different times, and then adds a couple of stiff trash can lid shots for good measure. As the match goes on, at one point they're both kind of on the top rope, but KO actually jumps off of it, and Sammy, who's facing towards the tables that were set up previously, he actually pushes Sammy off, who does like a front flip and just plows right through the freaking tables. At one point, KO sets up a chair and actually gives Sammy a brain buster, which, ooh, man, it looked really ugly. Like, really, that's one of the worst hits in this match for me. But, Sammy does retaliate with 2 different suplexes, one on the mat and another one through the same chair that he got put through earlier. And then we get a ref bump. Sammy was going for the haluva kick, but freaking KO pulled the ref right in front of him. So referee's down. KO gets a stunner on Sammy, actually goes for the pin. Charles Robinson, referee, comes running down. Only a 2 count, and, KO gets pissed, and we get another ref bump for our troubles. So, yeah, even the refs aren't safe at this point. But then again, are they ever safe? KO decides to bring a table into the ring and actually suplexes Sammy through it. But Sammy will not give up. He won't stay down. And at this point, Cole starts getting adamant about, stopping the match. This is too much. He's got a family, just throwing all kinds of stuff out there. And KO starts taunting Sammy in one corner. And then he starts running to the other corner. But as he starts running, Sammy follows him immediately. And it gets him with the haluva kick as soon as KO hits the corner. And by this point, Sammy is really showing major signs of fatigue and just all the damage he's going through. Like, he's kind of hunched over. And when he gets out of the ring, he starts tapping his arms, trying to get feeling back in him. He clearly, this match has taken an ugly toll on him. And then he reaches under the ring and he pulls out a chair wrapped in barbed wire. It's hard not to think of Cactus Jack at this point when he used to pull out those 2x4s wrapped in barbed wire. Seriously. And, Sammy doesn't waste any time. He uses it several times on KO and actually stands it up, and KO is running towards Sammy, and Sammy does a drop toe hold, and KO goes face first into the chair. And then Sammy decides to set up 2 other chairs and puts the barbed wire chair right in the center of it, almost like a makeshift table, and gives KO the blue thunder bomb right into it. But at this point, as the match goes on, KO manages to get a pop-up power bomb on Sammy. And at this point, it's the beginning of the end for Sammy. It really is. KO actually, they end up on the outside. KO puts a chair around Sammy's neck and slams him into one of the ring posts, and then he slams him into another ring post. Ends up picking up Sammy and powerbombing him on the apron, which I feel like a lot of wrestling fans by now know that is the hardest part of the ring, and it just looks ugly whenever someone takes a move on that little section of the ring. KO tries to do another powerbomb on the apron, but he doesn't get all of it. Matter of fact, he barely gets anything behind it. Sammy gets like one last little burst of energy, tries to get some hits in on KO, but it doesn't last. And then KO does one more power bomb on the apron. 1, 2, 3. That's it. The match is over. You know, I don't smoke anymore, but after this match, I feel like I need a cigarette. Seriously, I mean, this match did not disappoint on the carnage whatsoever, and it never got boring. That seems to be a big thing with this entire PLE. There's never been a boring moment during any of the matches that I can remember. But at this point, we're not done yet. KO he starts walking away, but then he comes back and he tries to put Sammy. He starts lifting up the mat on the outside of the ring and tries to put Sammy through it. But as soon as he tries it,
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.
yep, that's right, Mr. Randy Orton, the Viper, the legend killer himself, is finally back after months of being gone, after being taken out by KO. When KO was starting this whole turning on all of his friends thing, it was Randy who was the first victim of all that. And as soon as he gets to the ring, he doesn't waste any time. He starts fighting with KO, gives him an RKO, and literally starts screaming at him, "You tried to break my neck." At first, Orton goes for a nearby chair and looks like he's going to use it, but he slowly hesitates, puts it down, and gets in position for the punt, which we have not seen in a long damn time. Unfortunately, we don't get to see it because the security that has accumulated around the ring when the match was over and they were trying to protect Sammy, I quote, protect, because let's face it, is security good for anything? They just kind of stand there and shout, "No, no, no," but they never do anything. Anyway, they jump in and they stop Orton from actually doing the punt, which sucks. Orton ends up giving the RKO to 4 different security guards. He even plays it off at one point like he's going to shake one of their hands, and as soon as they go for it, he just gives them an RKO. It's like the old days whenever Stone Cold Steve Austin would have a beer and he'd share a beer with you, and as soon as you tried to drink the beer, he would kick you and stun you. It reminded me of that. Now, I don't want to speculate too much of how this is going to play out leading into WrestleMania, but I'm going off my instincts. I have a feeling that Sammy is going to be out for a while, and we're going to see KO versus Orton at WrestleMania. You know, whether it's like a regular match, a specialty match, whatever the case, that's what I think is going to happen. But let's wait out the next so many weeks and see where this plays out. There are just a couple more celebrities that are highlighted in the crowd, and I'll quickly go over it before I get to the main event. We've got Andrew Fung from Run the Burbs and Kim's Convenience, Robbie Amell from Code 8 and Code 8 Part 2, which is on Netflix, and I hope I pronounced this right, Italia Ricci from Designated Survivor, which is also on Netflix. So I don't know, maybe I give some of that stuff a try down the road. I'll look into it. And we also have the offensive tackle from the Buffalo Bills, Deion Dawkins. But we have finally reached the main event, the males Elimination Chamber match, which is the end-all be-all. At this point, when this match is over, we know who is going to face Cody at WrestleMania. Now, going into this match, all of these competitors have competed in at least one Elimination Chamber in the past, some more than others, obviously. First out, Logan Paul, who, as soon as he hits the entrance, he stops walking, holds up his finger like, hold on a second, goes in the back, and comes back with an American flag and starts flapping it around. So, you know what? I have to give Logan Paul at least a couple of cool points for that. Next up, we've got Damian Priest, who did compete in Elimination Chamber back in 2023. CM Punk, who is actually in his 5th Elimination Chamber match. He actually defended it, the WWE title, in the 2012 Elimination Chamber match. John Cena, who, you know, I can't be completely sure. I backed it up a couple of times. It almost looked like he tripped at the entrance just slightly, but I don't know. It might just be me. This would actually be John Cena's 8th Elimination Chamber match. He is tied for most appearances. I missed. They might have mentioned who the other person was. I missed it. I'm pretty sure it's probably Triple H. And he has actually had 3 consecutive wins in the Elimination Chamber. Drew McIntyre, who is in his third Elimination Chamber. He's got 2 wins, including last year. And finally, Seth freaking Rollins, who is in his 4th Elimination Chamber. Unfortunately for him, he has never won one. His last Elimination Chamber was actually in 2023, so it's been a few years for him. And I swear, Seth is looking very purple tonight. I swear, I don't know who comes up with the ideas for Seth's outfits every time he comes out to the ring, but yeah, they're very out there. And I love how on SmackDown it was highlighted. What he was wearing was actually highlighted. I forgot exactly what they said, but yeah, they definitely brought it up. It was pretty funny. Now the match starts out, Drew and Seth begin, and immediately they go for their finishers, but it doesn't happen. They fight it out for a little bit. Seth actually gets thrown on the outside, and then he's thrown back first into the chain, and gets his face raked as well for good measure. Seth turns it around and actually throws Drew into Punk's pod glass, while Punk sits there and screams, "Harder! Harder! Harder!" Just totally getting into it and just egging him on, almost like the Emperor from Star Wars. Both guys get back in the ring and they fight it out for a little bit longer, and then they're back on the outside, so we're just going all over the damn place at this point. Drew actually suplexes Seth. He, while they're on the outside, he slingshots Seth into the exposed corner of steel of the post. He actually unscrews a little piece so that he can do that, so he gets his throat right into it. And again, Punk is just egging Drew on the whole freaking time. Like, yeah, man, come on, go for it. Damien comes in next, and he dukes it out with Drew. Then he takes control of the other 2 guys, and he even gives Seth a razor's edge, throwing Seth over the top rope onto Drew, who's on the outside of the ring. Drew stops Damien with a Glasgow kiss at one point, and then it turns into a lot of just back and forth going on. At one point, Drew is actually dangling from the top rope, with his legs are attached through the middle rope, while Damien is on top of the rope. Seth comes up and just jumps up to give Damien a superplex, but he doesn't get it right away. And Drew, who's still dangling, he uses his core strength to sit up and pulls both men down, and they all hit the ring. Logan comes in and, very cockily takes control of the match, even getting a neck breaker on Seth at one point, until Damien knocks Paul to the outside, slams him into the pod's glass, and then rakes his face. So there's a lot of that going on in this match too, which I'm sure makes Punk happy because they had a little altercation on SmackDown before this. At one point, Damien actually uses old school while the guys are on the outside of the ring, and gets a Hurricane Rana on Drew. That was actually pretty cool. Seth and Paul, they start fighting it out for a bit. Finally, Cena comes in. He comes in and he takes out everybody in the ring, just like the way Cena always does. I'm rolling my eyes watching the match like, yeah, they just had to go there, didn't they? And after he does it, I do think it's funny. He stands there and just kind of looks at the camera and just has a very nothing's changed look on his face. Like, yeah, I'm Cena. It's what I do. Logan actually gets himself a 5-knuckle shuffle and an AA, but Cena actually eats a Claymore from Drew. But then Damien rolls up Drew and pins him 1, 2, 3. It comes out of completely nowhere. And Drew is like, he's so stunned. Like, he's just freaking out. Like, oh my God, what the hell? And he's looking up at the WrestleMania sign, realizing that that's it, dude. You're done. You're not going to the main event. And then Drew retaliates with a freaking Claymore on Damien. And then Paul climbs to the top of Punk's pod and does a frog splash on Priest and gets a 1, 2, 3 on Priest. That's it. Damien is also out. So right off the bat, the 2 biggest guys in the match are done. And then finally, CM Punk is in, and he immediately starts fighting with Paul, suplexes Paul to the outside of the ring. He starts slamming his head repeatedly on his pod glass, and then he starts slamming him into the chain as well. And then after all this, Punk gets back in the ring and he's locking eyes with Cena. And I gotta tell you, after being a fan years ago during the original Cena-Punk rivalry that was going on there for a while, it's really cool to see this moment. It's really surreal because honestly, after all the shit that happened all the years with Cena just barely being on TV, Punk leaving the company, going to AEW, I would have never guessed we would actually have this moment in front of us where we could see these 2 fighting again. It'd be like Cena, not Cena, but The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin actually standing in the ring together and having a fight afterwards. Like, you would never think that would happen now after all these years, you know, and it's just really cool to see that. But as they're sitting there staring at each other, Seth kicks Punk and starts attacking him. Cena tries to get involved, but Seth immediately pulls Cena off and starts yelling at him, telling him, back off, he's mine, leave it alone. And, you know, Cena doesn't listen at all, you know. And then Cena and Punk actually exchange blows until Paul interferes and he gets himself a GTS. 1, 2, 3. Paul is officially out. Done. Punk and Cena actually double team on Seth a little bit, which after that little altercation earlier, I'm not surprised by. Cena does extend his hand to Punk. Punk, instead of shaking his hand, he actually hugs him, and then they kind of duke it out for a little bit. But eventually, both go for their finishers, and there's a lot of counters going on until Cena gets the STF on Punk. Wait, is it the STF or STFU? I can't remember what they call it anymore. Because I remember he used to call it STFU. I think it might still be called that. I'll just keep calling it that. The hell with it. And then Punk actually reverses that into an Anaconda Vice. And Cena actually gets a roll up, but only gets a 2 count. Again, this is really fun to see after all these years. Punk and Cena duking it out. Match goes on. Punk gets a crossbody on Cena from the top rope, but Cena does like a backwards roll while he's holding on to Punk, stands up, throws Punk on the shoulders, and does a freaking AA. Once again, going back to the whole Cena's strength thing I mentioned before, only gets a 2 count. Seth actually does a buckle bomb to Cena on the outside onto the chain, and then slams Cena into one of the pod's glass. I forget which one he did. And Cena, it actually breaks the glass off the hinges, and Cena's out for a little bit. Seth does get a pedigree on Punk, only gets a 2 count, and then he tries it again while they're on the outside moments later, but Punk reverses it and then goes for an elbow drop on the top rope. He signals for the GTS, but Seth reverses that into another buckle bomb onto the ropes this time, and then gets a curb stomp, but only gets a 2 count. And let me tell you, Seth is pissed. He is slamming his head on the mat. He is fed up with this. He is like, okay, what do I have to do to finish this? But then after all this, Cena's out for a moment, but then he finally gets back in the ring. Cena grabs Seth off the top rope. Seth fights it off as best he can, gets back on the mat, but then Seth gets a GTS from Punk, and then he gets an AA. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Seth is done. We're down to Cena and Punk. So once again, my wish and hope and desire of Punk winning is slowly becoming a reality. Cena and Punk actually shake hands, but very quickly Punk pulls Cena in and gets the GTS. But then, you know, Cena also gets himself an AA. Both of them only get 2 counts. And this is getting, let me tell you, this is getting really exciting at this point to see who's going to be the winner. Cena tries to go for the STFU again. And Punk, who's slowly crawling his way to the bottom rope, towards the chamber entrance, kind of kicks Cena away. Cena falls down. And Punk is trying to get his bearings, but then out of nowhere, while his head is through the ropes, Seth gives Punk a curb stomp right on the outside area. And I'll tell you, Cena, he doesn't hesitate. He goes over, grabs Punk, pulls him to the middle of the ring, throws the STFU on Punk, and you know what? Punk doesn't tap out. He passes out. He's out. He's done. The ref calls it. Cena wins. And I gotta say, that last little moment there, it reminded me of the WrestleMania 13 Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin match, the submission match they had where Stone Cold Steve Austin passed out from the pain and didn't submit. The only main difference here is that Punk wasn't covered in a pool of blood, but the scenario is pretty much the same if you take the blood situation out of it. So there it is. Cena wins the match. Seth's completely screwed him. Asshole. It's like, I can't. It's just like with the Royal Rumble. I can't stand it when somebody is eliminated and they still make it a point to get involved in the match and screw somebody out of the match. I've never cared for that. No, that doesn't do it for me. Now, I am not going to lie. I know there's certain people out there that are very interested in hearing my opinion about how I feel with what happened. My brother. I was pissed. Let me just say it right out. As soon as Cena won, I was angry. I was pissed. I was not happy. Not at all. I just thought, you know what? This is the lowest common denominator. Why are we doing this? Why is Cena getting the main event at WrestleMania? Hasn't he had enough? I wasn't happy at all. But after the match is over, they raise the chamber, and we don't waste a whole lot of time. Cody, his music hits. He walks out to the ring. Both Cena and Cody kind of just stand there. They share a few words with each other, talking about WrestleMania. Then The Rock's music hits. He comes out, and with him, he's got Travis Scott, which we saw earlier in the night. He's got some random title over his shoulder. I don't know which title it is. I couldn't tell. It looked like it had some tape over it or something, so I'm not too sure about that. But him and Travis and The Rock, rather, make their way to the ring, and we finally get the altercation that we've been waiting all night to see. Now, there are moments in wrestling history, whether it's WCW, the World Wrestling Federation, now WWE, whatever. There are moments that live forever, that fans will never forget. Hogan slamming Andre at WrestleMania 3. Granted, not the first time that Andre had ever been slammed before, but this seems to be the one that everybody remembers. Stone Cold Steve Austin cutting his famous Austin 316 promo at the King of the Ring 1996 after he beat Jake the Snake Roberts. The infamous Montreal Screwjob at Survivor Series 1997. Mick Foley being thrown off the top of the Hell in the Cell at King of the Ring 1998, the day the streak died at WrestleMania 30. And one of my personal favorites, the pipe bomb. These are all moments that live in our memories, always stand out. And I feel like what happens here, this altercation at the Elimination Chamber, through the course of time is going to become one of those moments. Just my personal opinion. Now, once Rock is in the ring, he begins by telling Cody that he is opening his arms to him. He says that Cody will embrace him as his brother, and he will become the Rock's champ. Rock says that he needs Cody's mind and his soul, and that he needs his soul. And if Cody says yes, the American Nightmare will live forever. However, if he doesn't, the dream dies. Now, Cody does say that he wants it all, but retorts by saying that he gave his soul away to the ring and these people a long time ago. And then Cody gives his final answer to The Rock.
Hey, Rock! Go fuck yourself!
Wow. It's not often that we actually get F-bombs that are not bleeped out, but I'm surprised that we actually got one. So there you go. Cody turns him down, and as far as we're concerned, that's it. That should be the end of it. That should be the end of it, but it's not. Now, I'm going to shift my focus to Cena for a second. The whole time that this is going down, Cena is acting almost like a cheerleader. He's being very supportive, shall I say, of Cody not taking The Rock's offer. And after Cody had those lovely words to share with The Rock, Cena, again, he got really excited about Cody's answer, like hopping around the ring and whatnot, big smile on his face. And it was at that moment I felt a very big shock of deja vu. It reminded me of something. It reminded me of something very specific. Let me take you back to July 1996, WCW Bash at the Beach. I think a lot of you already know where I'm going with this. The infamous main event where you had the Outsiders who were supposed to have their third man. The third man didn't show up against three members of WCW, Savage, Sting, and Luger. Luger gets taken out early in the match. It becomes a 2-on-2 match. The match goes on for a good while, and there, at one point, Macho Man gets racked, I want to say by Nash, and then all of a sudden the camera pans to the entranceway, and out comes Hulk Hogan. Now, From my perspective, from back then, watching this, I hadn't watched wrestling in a long time. I didn't even know that Hogan was a part of WCW. I didn't know that he'd been there for a couple of years. Hell, he wasn't even on TV weeks leading up to this. You know, the whole thing with Scott Hall showing up on TV and then Kevin Nash made an appearance. They were at the Great American Bash. No sign of Hogan at all. So I had no idea. So as he's walking out, it's like I'm 7 years old again. You know, I'm a little kid watching Hulk Hogan after all these years. I start getting excited. I'm like, oh my God, it's Hogan. Holy crap. He's going to go in there. He's going to kick their butts. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. And I never would have suspected a thing if it hadn't been for one comment from Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah, but whose side is he on? What are you talking about? Whose side is he on? What are you talking about?
And in that moment, I stopped smiling. I stopped cheering. I kind of just sat there for a second as Hogan slowly made his way into the ring and ripped his shirt. In my mind, I'm thinking, no, he wouldn't. I mean, he couldn't, right? I mean, this is Hulk Hogan, the epitome of all things good in wrestling during the 80s. I mean, no, there's no way this could happen. And sure enough, it did. Everybody knows how that played out. Hogan leg drops Macho Man and basically tells all the fans to go fuck themselves. Going back to the Elimination Chamber, this is exactly how I felt when Cena was being very overly, what's the word I'm looking for? Supportive of Cody. It didn't smell right. Something did not smell right at all. And then Cena and Cody end up hugging, no big deal. But then the camera shoots to Cena's face. Has a very stone dead, unhappy look on his face, looking directly at The Rock. The Rock does the kill sign over his throat with his hand. Cena stops embracing Cody and kicks him right in the nards. Wow. John Cena. I cannot believe it. After all these motherfucking years, John Cena has finally turned heel. I would have never called that. If it hadn't been for him acting the way he did, and I don't know. I don't know. I didn't see this coming. I really didn't. Not for one damn second did I think this was going to happen. Maybe I should have suspected it. I know my brother, leading into the Elimination Chamber, reminded me that The Miz had made a comment to Cody about taking the deal from The Rock because if he doesn't, somebody else will. And I'd forgotten that little tidbit. So, and even with that, it's like, yeah, all these years that we have asked and begged and hoped that John Cena would actually turn heel. It's never happened. Hell, Bray Wyatt, years ago, tried to bring it out of Cena, even going so far as to show Cena clips of his, showing just how similar he was to Hogan, which he is. Let's be fair here. Cena is very similar to Hogan. I mean, I've always referred to Cena as being Hogan 3.0. Just like I've always said that Rock is Hogan 2.0 and Roman Reigns is Hogan 4.0. But that's a whole discussion for another time. But what's interesting is how, like I said, their careers are very similar. The fact that both of them started out as not being popular. Hogan wasn't a babyface back when he started out. He was a heel back then. It wasn't until he got picked up to do Thunder Lips in Rocky 3, and was gone from the company for a time. And then when he came back, probably because of the popularity of the movie, all of a sudden he became a babyface, and then soon after he won his first championship, major championship. Same thing with Cena. He started out, not counting the whole ruthless aggression thing, his introduction with Kurt Angle, but when he started coming out as the master of Thugonomics, he wasn't being cheered. He was a heel at the time. It wasn't until he started slowly getting over with the crowd that's when it changed. Pardon me. And speaking of Bray Wyatt and his and Cena's match at WrestleMania 36, if you've never seen it before, I highly recommend checking it out. It's very eye-opening and very thought-provoking, especially now, after this happened, with Cena turning heel. Very much so. Now, after Cena kicks Cody, he grabs Cody's gold watch, which happened to be on the mat, actually clocks Cody with it a couple of different times, which again is very reminiscent of the old days when Cena used to have those. What the hell were they? They were like custom made Knucks when he was the master of Thugonomics. Yeah, it felt like that. And he hit him with the watch a couple of times like that. He beats on him a little bit more. He actually picks up the title. And let me just say this. Maybe I'm just reading a little bit too much into it, but when Cena picked up Cody's title, and when he was holding it, the WWE logo was actually upside down. I'm pretty sure that was just random. I'm pretty sure that wasn't planned out, but I can't help but feel like that is just very reminiscent of his heel turn at this point, that, since he's turning evil now. But I digress. He hits Cody with the title, and then Cena holds the title up while staring at the camera with this just really ugly death stare on his face. My friend said that he looked like he was constipated, but I see something different. That's just my opinion. And Cena actually hits Cody with the belt one more time, and starts ripping off Cody's clothes, starts choking him with his tie. And then Cole, even Michael Cole, resorts to cursing on commentary. So, having a little spat with, I think it was Wade Barrett about, what the hell, Cena's going to resort to this shit? And I'm like, okay, well, fuck, if we throw down the F-bomb, I guess everything's on the table at this point for cursing. And that's pretty much it. The Rock and his little entourage, they make their way out. And that is the Elimination Chamber, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely a lot going on. Now, as I mentioned before, I don't want to go into too much speculation as far as any matches that are potentially going to be happening at WrestleMania that are not already guaranteed, and even the ones that are, like Cody versus Cena. I am at least going to share my personal opinion on the Cena heel turn and what I think of it overall. Now, and I want to be very clear here, I am still not a big Cena fan. I am still not happy with him going to WrestleMania and being in the main event. I am not happy about him going to win his 17th title. He doesn't need it. However, after what happened at Elimination Chamber, I am at this moment 100% behind Dark Cena. I want to see how bad he could potentially get over the course of the next year, because I feel like he is going to win at Mania, and he's going to be one of the biggest heel champions we have ever had. Now, granted, I don't want to speculate too much. I said it before, and I don't want to contradict myself. Perhaps there's a possibility of getting Punk into the main event at WrestleMania, and we get a triple threat. However, if that does not happen, this is what I want, okay? This is specifically what I want over the course of the next year leading into next year's WrestleMania. If we get Cody versus Cena and Cena wins, and I'm pretty sure Cena will hold the title probably throughout the entire year, I don't see him losing it. So if that's the case, what I want is leading into next year, 2026, I want to see CM Punk finally win the Royal Rumble. He's never done it, and I would love to see it happen finally. And then go on to WrestleMania to defeat John Cena, one of the best rematches of all time. Cena versus CM Punk, with all the history they've had, going at it, main event, WrestleMania, and CM Punk finally wins the big one. That's what I want to see. I don't know if WWE will make that happen, but you know what? I am begging WWE, make it happen. I want to see it so freaking bad. You will make me one of the happiest fans of all time. Hell, I'm so excited about WrestleMania right now. I wish that I had the means and the money to go to the show in Vegas and watch it live. That's how much I'm looking forward to it right now. I don't get excited for WrestleMania that much over the last 15 years, mostly because of Roman Reigns. But again, discussion for another time. I won't get into it right now. One last thing I'm going to say before I do my closing statements and sign off. I hope that somehow, some way down the road, Triple H, Paul Levesque, hears this podcast, and I want him to hear me say that he is a fucking genius. You are a genius because you somehow managed. I was not on board with Cena going on to WrestleMania, but now you have officially made me interested in what's going to happen in Cena's final run in this company. You turned me around. You made me do a complete 180, and I am so on board with this shit. Now, that does it for my thoughts and everything else having to do with Elimination Chamber. This has been an adventure. Okay, this is my first podcast. This is my first time ever trying to use editing software. Between losing all of my notes and having to do everything twice, it's been a nightmare. I'm gonna say it's been a fucking nightmare, but hopefully some people listen to this and some people enjoy it. There will be more podcasts going forward. This is only the first. Going forward, I do want to do what I'm going to be calling weekend reviews, because I'm a big movie fan. I do watch movies on a regular, and I thought it would be fun to do a podcast on a weekly or possibly bi-weekly basis where I talk about all the different movies that I have seen that are brand new to me, whether it's first run in theaters, on streaming, or anything I have on like Blu-ray 4K that I have yet to sit down and watch for the first time. So that's what I'm going to be doing going forward, and also hopefully learn how to use editing software for recording. There's a lot of different videos I would like to do, especially highlighting all the new Blu-rays that I have accumulated over the past year from October to December, because there's quite a few, and I know a lot of YouTubers like to do like unboxing videos. That's something I would like to do and just kind of highlight all of my stuff, not just for the fans, for any fans that I get along the way, but also for myself to have a video documentation of all the new movies that I get over the course of time. So, but anyway, anybody who's actually taken the time to listen to this, I cannot tell you how much I thank you for it. I greatly appreciate it. If you do enjoy this, feel free to leave me a like. And if you have any comments, anything you want to share about what I've said here, any suggestions for me going forward, things you would like me to do, like through the form of podcasts or actual videos, please let me know. As a matter of fact, I will at least go ahead and mention I finally have a official title for my podcast. I went through a lot of different ideas throughout the time of me trying to get this podcast officially online for everyone to listen to. So at this point, going forward, this podcast shall henceforth be known as the Psycho Nerd Podcast. And as far as what I mentioned before about emailing me, the official email for this particular podcast is the Psycho Nerd Podcast at yahoo.com. A little lengthy, but it'll get the job done. But yeah, as I said, feel free to drop me a line, any comments, suggestions, anything you have. I would love the feedback. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you again for listening. Please take care of yourselves, be safe, but don't forget to have fun. Just not too much fun.